It's just incredible, and I feel so lucky. Hey humans, I'm Montell, and this is The Dirty Word, where sex and language get it on. Today I have a different sort of video because I have a very exciting thing to say. If you know me in real life or follow me on social media, you already know what I'm about to say. It's that I signed a book deal. The publishing contract just came in a few days ago. I signed it officially, so it's a done deal at this point. In spring 2019, the book is going to be published by Putnam, an incredible imprint of the Penguin Group. It's called WORDY, A Feminist Guide to Taking Back the English Language. And it's based on this show, on The Dirty Word. So if you've ever watched one of these videos, thank you so much. This would not be happening without you. Mostly what I'm going to be talking about here is a brief version of the story of how this book deal came to be, because 5 or so years ago, I would have loved a video like this. It's going to be a little bit of a tell-all. The book again is called WORDY, and it's a sort of quick and dirty crash course in language and gender, a subfield of sociolinguistics that uncovers the secret, sometimes problematic, but always fascinating relationship between sex, gender, and language. So I guess the story really starts when I'm in college. I was a linguistics major in school. I was always absolutely fascinated by language. My gender and language class that I took at NYU really fired me up, but I knew that professionally I wanted to pursue a career in writing. Linguistics is the science of language, writing is the art of language, and I thought that as a career it would just suit me a little bit better. It's funny because there was a moment during my sophomore year at NYU where I started telling people that I wanted to be a pop linguist, like a linguistics writer, and people were like, oh yeah, that is not a thing. So I kind of dropped that dream. But I also really wanted to write nonfiction books for a living, which is also not a job until it miraculously is. So I knew that once I graduated from school, I would need a day job, and so I got one, and I am gainfully employed. By day, I work as a beauty editor. I am a features writer and editor at an online beauty and health magazine called WORDY.com, and the folks at WORDY actually are allowing me to go on a 6-month book leave to write this book, which I am so grateful for. So by day, I write about beauty and wellness, and then by night, I pursue my other creative projects. So I do The Dirty Word, and I go to literary events to kind of ingratiate myself with the literary community in the city where I live. I live in Los Angeles. I take writing classes, and I write personal essays and other reported pieces that I try to publish outside of WORDY. I have been involved in the small literary magazine community of LA. So I was just really trying to put my work out there in any way that I could. And initially, when I thought of the book that I wanted to publish one day, I thought I wanted it to be a collection of personal essays, like so many women in their 20s who want to write nonfiction. I actually had about 100 pages of an essay collection at the beginning of this year. And I decided that this year, 2017, was going to be the year that I pursued getting a literary agent. In my mind, my ultimate stretch goal, like my ideal situation, was to have a book deal by the age of 30. And I thought in my mind, well, in order to have a book deal by 30, I definitely need a literary agent by 25. In my mind, like, it definitely could not happen any faster than that. A literary agent is important for an author because they're the people who help sell your book to publishers. If you want to publish a book in a traditional commercial way, you have to get an agent first. Just like an actor has an agent who helps them get jobs, a literary agent helps put your book in publishers' hands so that you can get a book deal. So right when I turned 25, which was in February of this year, I just kind of started telling my friends that I was interested in possibly getting a literary agent. I wasn't even really pursuing it in any kind of active, intense way. I was just sort of starting to put it out there in the universe, I guess. What they teach you in school is that in order to get a literary agent, you need to send a fully written manuscript of your book and a query letter around to a bunch of different literary agents in the industry. Just cold mail it in. But I kind of had an inkling that that was not quite the case because as an editor at WORDY, I receive hundreds of emails a day, and many of them I don't look at, especially if I don't know the person. So I thought, I think it's probably a smarter strategy to see if I can find someone that I've met throughout the years of me being involved in the literary community of LA who could possibly help me. But I wasn't really trying to do that at this point in February, March of this year. But one of the people that I did tell about my sort of impending goal was this blogger named Kiara, who has this amazing beauty website called Pure Opulence, where she conducts hundreds of interviews with women who work in the beauty industry. And she reached out to me and asked if she could interview me about my job at WORDY. During the interview, I mentioned that I wanted to write a book. It came out and I shared it on my Facebook. And it just so happened that one of the people who saw that interview on Facebook was an old childhood friend of mine who I hadn't actually seen in person for a very long time. She was signed to a literary agency. And so she hit me up and said, Amanda, it's so cool that you want to write a book. I've been following your work over the years on WORDY and elsewhere. Let me see if I can try to hook you up with my agency. And of course I was like, oh my gosh, thank you so much, but I really did not expect anything of that. We hadn't seen each other in a long time, sometimes these things fall through. But lo and behold, a couple days later, and this is April of 2017. This is just like a month after I started telling people that I wanted a literary agent. An agent from her agency, which is called the Waxman Level Literary Agency in New York, reached out to me. And she said, Amanda, an author of ours recommended you to me. I Googled you, I read some of your work, I'm into it. Can we get on the phone and discuss possible book ideas? And I lost my mind, let me tell you. We got on the phone and I proceeded to just over-enthusiastically word vomit everything about myself. Hello, I'm Amanda. I work as a beauty editor. I also have 100 pages of this personal essay collection. Oh, and then I also publish here. Oh yes, and I have this web series called The Dirty Word, where sex and language get it on. Gender, language, and pop culture. But yes, my personal essay collection. Let me tell you everything about myself that will convince you that I would make a good literary client. This agent who I was on the phone with, her name is Rachel Vogel, and she is so smart and also so kind. And in the nicest way ever, she basically said, nobody is interested in your personal essays. She was like, you kind of have to be famous in order to publish a very successful essay collection. I mean, if that's something you really want to do, we could, try to pursue it. And I literally was like, honestly, no. I will throw my essays in the garbage. My goal here is to publish a book that people will love, and if you don't think that my essays are going to be that, then let's frickin' scrap them. And she was like, sweet, glad to hear it. The Dirty Word. Tell me more about that. And I was like, oh, The Dirty Word. Well, it's this web series that I do because I was a linguistics major and I'm fascinated by language, and I think that everybody inherently is, because we all want to know why we talk the way we do. It's just that this field of gender and language is so niche and so new, and so few people study it in school, and my mission with the show is to expose people to this fascinating field of study. And she said, a book about gender and language, a feminist guide to the English language, that I can sell. And I just thought to myself, why the hell did I not think of that? Of course, that is my book. The next step was to put together a book proposal. Now, again, what they teach you in school is that you need to have a fully written manuscript before you get a book deal. That is not the case. The way that nonfiction books are sold, and maybe fiction too, I don't know, I really am just learning as I go. But the way that nonfiction books are sold is that you put together a proposal, which is basically a very lengthy, detailed pitch, letting a publisher and an editor know everything they would possibly want or need to know to convince them that this is going to be a hit. Mine was about 40 pages. It basically consists of an overview of the book, information about me and what I could bring to the table marketing and publicity-wise to make sure that this book sells, a detailed chapter outline, a sample chapter. Mine is about 5,000 words long. Other information I'm sure I'm forgetting, but it's kind of a lot. Oh yeah, Rachel Vogel did not sign me after that first call. A few days after that, she put me to the test a little bit and had me write a 2-page overview of the book. Now, we had just decided on this book idea 2 days ago, so I really had to bring it because this was going to be what convinced her that I was worth signing, because she, we didn't know each other, we had just met. I stayed home from work one Friday and I just busted out this overview, and I didn't know how it went. I didn't know if it was a disaster or if it was good. I had never written an overview for a book proposal before, obviously. But the next day, a Saturday, I woke up with a contract in my inbox, and she signed me. So I had 6 weeks to put together this proposal, but really, because I have a full-time writing job, I only had about 4 weekends to put this proposal together. So I scrambled, and I was pretty happy with it by the end, very happy with it. Then my agent sent the proposal to a number of her publisher contacts at some of the biggest publishers in the world: Simon & Schuster, Penguin Random House, HarperCollins. I was telling my friends, I'm like, when you apply to college, you have some reach schools, and then you have some safety schools, and she was sending my proposal to all reach schools. I was like, don't we want to aim a little lower? But she was like, no, this is going to the big dogs. And 8 publishers were interested in meeting with me. So again, I live in LA. In June, I flew to New York, and I met with 8 publishers from all over the place. And the purpose of these meetings was sort of just to get to know me a little bit better, to hear me talk about the material from my own mouth, to get a sense of my personality, my vision for the book, and then the publisher's job was to pitch me their vision. There was one publisher in particular that I felt I really clicked with, who was so jazzed about the idea, who I just felt like really got it. There were a few publishers like that, but one in particular. And then there were a few who were a little bit skeptical for one reason or another, were interested but thought, you know, maybe this isn't a great fit, we should meet with her. And then by the end of all these meetings, 5 publishers were interested in putting money down. The way you choose a publisher, and again, I never knew any of this, I was learning this completely as I went, is that the publishers enter an auction, a bidding war, for the rights to the book. This isn't like an auction, like it happens over email, and my agent facilitated it. And what they're bidding on, that number corresponds to the book advance. And a book advance is how much money an author receives up front once the book comes out. Then once you make that money back in royalties, you start making more money. But the advance is what you get up front. You get it in a number of chunks. And if it's enough, then hopefully you can live on that book advance while you're writing the book. So the publishers entered this bidding war, and it kind of reminded me of Shark Tank. I'm a big fan of that show. I don't know if any of you watch Shark Tank, but it was basically like the sharks, the publishers, were putting in their bids for a stake in my business or my book, and then it would, I guess in the Shark Tank analogy, it would be a very good royalty deal for them, as Mr. Wonderful would say. So they get to keep like the majority of the sales of the book after they front me that advance. That's a lot of money talk. Anyway, it just so happened that the person who won the auction was the editor that I clicked with so much, and I ended up choosing her. Her name is Carrie Colin, she's at Putnam, and she is just such a firecracker and so shares my vision for the book, and I'm just so happy to be with her. I'm not going to tell you exactly how much my book advance was for, because I don't know. First of all, I don't know if I'm even allowed to, but it's also just crass. What I will say though is that it is more money than I would advise anyone to give me, and it was in the 6 figures. Then after the bidding war ended and I selected a publisher, I went on leave from my job, and for the next 6 months, I'm going to be writing this book. It's really too good to be true. Oh, here's the other crazy thing I want to say. It is just extraordinarily lucky that I had this childhood friend who hooked me up with my literary agent. That caused me to have like personal crises about my own worth several times. I just thought to myself, like, if I had never met this friend, then this would have never happened. We're all just a millimeter from success or failure at all times. But a few weeks after I signed with my literary agent, a piece that I wrote came out in Marie Claire. It was this piece about women who ghostwrite for internet celebrities, and it got kind of a lot of attention. And another literary agent reached out to me because of that and said, "Are you working on a book? I would love to get on the phone and talk to you." And I got to say, like, "Oh, thank you so much, but I'm already represented." So it could have happened. It could have happened without having like a successful childhood friend. Ultimately, there is no simple answer to the question of like how I got a 6-figure book deal at the age of 25. It was like all of these sequences of events, all of these parts of my life, all adding up. If I weren't an editor of WORDY. I would have never done that interview on pure opulence. And if I'd never done that interview, then my friend never would have seen it, and she never would have told her agency about me. And if I hadn't been putting my work out there, and not even in big places, it's not like I was publishing in the New Yorker and Vogue, I was publishing in smaller journals. But if I hadn't been doing that, then Rachel Vogel, my agent, wouldn't have been able to Google me and see my website and see all my work. And if I hadn't been doing the dirty word this whole time, then we wouldn't have come up with an idea. So all these seemingly unrelated parts of my life, the beauty editing, the essays, the web series, it all ended up being important, all of it. The other incredible thing about this experience is that it has all been because of women. Every person along the way, my boss at WORDY, the blogger who interviewed me, my agent, my friend from childhood, my editor at Marie Claire, my publisher, my editor, everybody has just been this incredibly industrious, smart, badass, compassionate woman, all of whom want to support me on this journey to writing a nerdy ass book about gender and language. So I'm in no position to give any advice. I don't know a lot about this industry yet, but if I had to attribute this incredible thing happening to me to something other than dumb luck, because you have to acknowledge dumb luck. It is such a pet peeve of mine when people who are in any kind of place of privilege just say, oh, it's because I worked hard. It's like, no, there's always luck at play. So I completely acknowledge that. But I also think that it's really just about putting your shit out there. It doesn't even have to be good. Just write, send your work out, fail, get better, beg people to read your stuff. Find a way to put videos on the internet about some niche, nerdy subject that you love. And ultimately, try to connect the dots of these seemingly unrelated pieces of your life. Because it's the sum of their parts that makes you unique. And maybe, ideally, sellable. Thank you all so much for watching this episode of The Dirty Word. I know it was a little bit different, but I hope you got something from it. If you have any questions for me, leave them in the comments below. I'll try my best to answer them. And remember, stay dirty.